Hello, welcome. I'm Claudia. If you're new here, I'm really excited today to talk about the plant feature of the month. I accidentally missed this in February, but I really enjoyed doing it in January, so I'm back and I have a really cool and special plant to show you. And my plant feature is really just highlighting a plant that I'm extra loving for a particular reason that I'll share with you in the video. I'll talk about its care, its environment, growing environment and conditions, and maybe a little bit about my journey with the plant, and really just some extra time to gush about a particular plant that I am loving a little bit extra in this particular month. Hope that sounds good to you. Let me get the plant. I'm holding the plant and I already know I'm gonna have a hard time showing you it. I may need to insert some B-roll, but this month's plant feature goes to none other than Anthurium pallidiflorum. And look at this beauty. I can't even show you the bottom, but this is the newest leaf and it is just perfection. It is gorgeous. I will have to measure it because it hasn't occurred to me to do that, but it's very, very long. It lives on top of my Millsbow wide cabinet, my Millsbow tall cabinet, and it's hanging more than halfway down now. I've had this plant, I'll need to insert the date for sure, but I've had kind of a journey with not this particular plant, but Anthurium pallidiflorum in general. I purchased a plant. It was like my dream pendant Anthurium I had been dreaming about for years, and it arrived decapitated. I shared that all if I find the video, or I'll look for the videos and I can link them down below in case you want to take a look. And this is basically the replacement plant I received from the seller because it arrived broken, and it's done amazing. It's done so good. So I did have it kind of it was living in my laundry area, like in that quarantine area that I have for all the new plants. And this was hanging off the counter and the poor thing just kept getting damaged with the drawers, or just, you know, if it was like bumped, or I think it fell a couple of times as the new leaves were emerging. And I finally moved it into this space on top of my Millsbow tall cabinet, I don't know, less than 6 months ago, maybe 4-ish months ago or so. And ever since, I've gotten these two newest leaves. I thought this one was massive, but this one is like a good 6 inches larger than the previous. And there's another leaf already on the way. So yeah, I mean, this is easy to hold here, so I guess I can hold it here as I continue to share about its care. Right away upon receiving the plant, I transferred it from whatever soil mix it was in into pon, and I've had pretty good experience just transferring Anthuriums directly from wherever they're in into pon without a transition period like I do with alocasias or even other plants. So yeah, it's been living in pon since it arrived with me. It didn't shock at all. It did take a minute to start growing, and then again it was getting beat up there. It had nothing to do with the plant itself and everything to do with me. I for sure have lost a couple of its original leaves, and I think it was just due to the fact that it was being a little bit neglected over in that area. I was missing waterings or like filling the reservoir, but since having it here, I'm doing much better of keeping track. Also, when I initially moved it to pon, I just had it in like a cup in pon, so there was no drainage. And since adding it to this pot, this is a lechuza pot that has the I don't know, there's a lot of knockoff versions, but I find that the lechuza ones are super reliable with the water gauge meter thing. So whenever it gets low, I just refill a little, and again, I just find that they're much more reliable in keeping track, so I'm much better at filling the reservoir when it needs it. I find this Anthurium to not really be picky at all and can adjust to various environments and growing conditions. Over in my laundry area, I do have that best window in the house, but I had it quite several feet back from the window, more towards like closer to the edge of that counter. So it was getting medium light at best, and honestly, it's probably getting medium light here as well. Maybe a little bit brighter here, especially since I installed those Russo track lights. I'll have to measure what the light is now. But it was getting probably pretty medium, average light over there, and it was still growing very nicely. It certainly started upsizing more once I brought it in here, but I think that also has to do with the fact that I'm better at watering, and I do water or refill the reservoir with my nutrient-rich cocktail every watering. I have to admit, I am not great at flushing the pond regularly. Ideally, I would love to do that like every month or so, but I really only do that whenever I'm deep cleaning the area of where the plants are. So I probably have only flushed this pond once since transferring it to this pot, and it's been quite a few months. So let's peek at the roots and see what those look like. I haven't lifted this out of here or anything. Oh my gosh. Look how good. See, this is why I love these Lechuza pots. I don't know. I mean, they obviously created them for their product and they do the job. I love that this particular, I believe it's called the Cubico, has the clear reservoir. I think that that's awesome, but this is probably going to need a repot very soon. I will note that I did start thoroughly rinsing my pond several months ago now, so the pond that I'm using to pot up plants now is already much cleaner than when I initially started using pond and I wasn't rinsing at all. But it is important to flush it from time to time to just get rid of any mineral buildup and things like that. I think I already said this, but I do refill with my nutrient-rich cocktail every watering. So it has silica, fertilizer, my bug hut biological trio, and my fungus unaliving drops. So that goes in the reservoir every watering. I've heard some people say that they're just unimpressed with Philodendron pallidiflorum, but I mean, I think that maybe it's not as magical in photos. In real life, it's just such a beautiful plant. I think the pendant leaves are just out of this world and they have this amazing shimmer. If I can't catch it right now, I will insert some B-roll, but they are just, yeah, it's just such a magical plant. I think I am so happy to have it, and I am just so impressed by its most recent growth, and particularly its most recent leaf. I just think it's out of this world. It's just so, so beautiful. I would consider this a super easy Anthurium. Again, super easy going. It was surviving and thriving even when it was being neglected over in my laundry area, and even now the care it requires is so minimal. I don't have to worry about measuring its light or anything like that. Again, this pot is making it super easy for me to accurately refill the reservoir when needed. You saw the roots, so they look super healthy, and it just does its thing and grows. I will say something important to note is, as the new leaves are emerging and expanding, you really want to make sure that nothing is in their way to allow them to expand without any bumps and bruises. But I would say that that's true for most plants, but particularly most Anthuriums. They really want their space to expand, and I mean, that's fair, right? Now, I do have a second pallidiflorum that I purchased when my original one arrived decapitated. I was like, I have to have one, and because it took the seller quite a few weeks to be able to source me the replacement. So in the meantime, I purchased another one, and I will show you it right now. I want to be transparent, so I'm going to show you this plant exactly as it is right now. I did this with you as well. This one arrived, so okay, first of all, I think that this is a narrow version, which I'm super excited to continue to grow out and see what it looks like with the more narrow pendant leaves. But I purchased this one when the other one arrived damaged, and it was taking some time to source my second one. And this one came in sphagnum moss. So I was terrified because I spent a pretty penny on it, and in general I don't consider myself super experienced with anthuriums, or even like medium level experience. I think I'm still very much newbie when it comes to them. So I kept it in sphagnum moss for several months, and then at some point I decided, okay, now I'm ready. I think I had already transferred I had received the other one and transferred it, and that one did well, so I felt confident in just uprooting this one and switching it. And it did well. Initially it grew a new leaf. I believe it even gave me an inflow, and then I missed watering and it got really unhappy. And it makes sense, right? Because it was living in sphagnum moss, which was kept moist and damp the entire time. Then I transferred it to pon, and that was obviously kind of keeping the consistency, but then it basically went into shock when it completely dried out. So it was not good. I believe I also did it with you, and I'll link the video down below. But so I got it out. There was a lot of rot and just unhappiness. Unhappiness. It was not happy. And so I decided to reroot it in fluval stratum. My gosh, words are hard. I decided to reroot it in stratum, and it is now completely rooted. There's tons and tons of roots. It is looking a little bit, you know, it's looking a little rough, but you can see that this is the newest leaf, and that looks beautiful. This is, oh no, this is the newest leaf. Just kidding. So this is the first leaf it gave me in this setup, and then it gave me this leaf, which is a little long, or not a little, it's significantly larger, but it looks nice and healthy. And then obviously some of the older leaves are just, you know, there was just too much damage, so they are struggling. So in honor of this pallidiflorum feature, I thought it would be fun if we just repot this into its pond setup and get this ready to just continue to thrive. As I'm getting set up to repot this more narrow pallidiflorum, I'm realizing that maybe I've been talking like really, I don't know, all over the place this whole video. So I'm sorry if I am, and I hope that it's all making sense to you, because I feel like it made sense in my head, but as I'm reflecting, now I'm questioning it. I really love this potting mat, or like having a potting mat, period, but sometimes I feel like they're uncooperative. Do you feel that way about your mat? I just rinsed some pon outside because I am all out. So it's wet, and I don't usually love working with wet pon, but you know, that's what we got going on. So it is what it is. I brought a vase so that we can rinse these roots. I don't like to keep any stratum on the roots when I transfer, because stratum just decomposes a lot faster than most substrates, and I don't want anything sticking to the roots that might impair their growth or anything like that. I should have brought something to dump. Ooh. I just watered it too, so it is very, oops. I mean, I always make a mess, right? What else is new? I will say, I get asked sometimes, like, what's the best medium to grow anthuriums or even alocasia, since I grow a lot of my alocasia on there. And some people, as of recent, have been saying like, oh, pon is awful for me, like, you know, it doesn't work or whatever. And I think that there's no right or wrong answer or like what the best substrate is for any plant. I think a lot of it, or like the most important thing, is how, like what are your care preferences and how you care for a certain plant. Like I tend to be an underwater, so for me pond solves that issue of avoiding underwatering for the most part. But if you like to water your plants more frequently, or if you're on top of that, then pond might not be for you. I'm going to need to take this over to the sink and rinse it because there's a lot of stratum stuck in the nooks and crannies in here. Okay, I will be right back. I just walked from the kitchen all the way back in here with this root ball dripping. I got as much as I could without like messing with the root ball too much. I don't want to shock it. And I'm gonna use this 3D printed custom pot with the wick and a lining from Repotting. I love these pots for anthuriums and alocasias in particular. I just think they are wonderful. I guess I should remove some of these leaves that are clearly on their way out. Okay. Wet pond is so sticky. There's a big gap over here. That's... This is so typical of me. Okay, I think that this is pretty good. We'll put this back in the reservoir. We will give it my new... If you can see the mess I'm making. We will give it my nutrient-rich cocktail. And I am going to have to rinse this or wipe it or something because I have managed to make it, like it's so sloppy. I just moved from the giant mess I created over there and wiped the leaves and the pot down. And this is what this guy is looking like. So I didn't notice that the newest leaf is not quite all the way hardened off. So I hope that it does okay. But yeah, how cute is this? Like, and what a contrast from the other pallidiflorum with the wider leaves. Like this, I don't know, I'm just really excited about this narrow guy. I can't wait to see what it looks like when it starts growing even larger pendant leaves. But so these both live on top of my Millsbo tall cabinet and on either side. I might place them next to each other. I don't know, we'll see how it goes, I'll show you. But he is all set and I love it. I love them both, but I'm definitely highlighting the wider form with the larger leaf, but I also wanted to take a moment and show you this guy because I think he's going to be just as impressive, if not more. That's it for the plant feature of the month. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you're inspired to look into this pendant anthurium. There's lots of beautiful pendant anthuriums in general, but I feel like the pallidiflorum really just takes the cake from all of them with the shimmer on the leaves is just, it's indescribable, and when you see it in person, it's just something else. I think it's so special. Thank you for spending your time with me. I will see you soon. Bye. Bye.